What is going on, YouTube? We are just 2 weeks away from Founder 500 in Austin, Texas on September 1st and 2nd. There's over 500 B2B SaaS founders all coming together. You don't want to miss it. Ticket prices increase every 3 days. I have it on an automatic accelerator every 3 days, and we're almost sold out. You can see there's about 9 left when you go to the Eventbrite link, about 9 left, and it's updating real time. So check it out today. It's founderpath.com. And then in the upper left, you can hover over our product drop down and click the event stream. I'll also put it in the description here of the YouTube video. I'd love to see you there. Hey folks, my guest today is Unat Bak. He's a 4 times non-technical SaaS founder who has amassed an incredible amount of experience in building, investing, and growth hacking early stage SaaS ventures. Got his fingers into the model, angel investing, and advising startups and mentoring founders through unique reverse angel method. He's on the board of many companies, and most recently has built tabscore.com, diligence as a service, and he's got some big news to share. Unat, you ready to take us to the top?
Sure.
All right, let's not bury the lead. What's the news?
All right. So Pre-IPO Corporation is a firm that is doing private and secondary market securities. And, as they were expanding and raising their round, they found it pertinent to acquire a technology suite, which was Tab Suite. So adding our proprietary AI and ML, intelligence as a service on these late stage companies, but also as they focus down into mid cap and growth stage, being able to perform the diligence suite functions, and just enhance the tech suite of their offering overall.
Yep. I love that. Well, look, we're obviously super excited for you. Tell us more about Tab Score. So pre-IPO, right? So what kinds of stuff were you working on? Or sorry, not pre-IPO, but like pre the acquisition to the company called pre-IPO, right? So what would someone have paid you for, 4 months ago?
Yeah, I mean, we had everything from everyone from angel investors, single angel investors, all the way up to angel funds, all the way up to micro VCs, big VCs. We even had SBA lenders, government organizations, and their core crux was utilizing Tab Suite to essentially conduct an evaluation on an early stage or a growth stage company. And what that means really is, not like the traditional scraping style tools that just provide it, hey, this company has 10 followers, they're not a good company. That's what we wanted to avoid. So Tab Suite allowed these investors to perform quantitative analysis on the qualitative aspects of the business. So being able to assign quantitative metrics to founder experience, or where they are in the life cycle, whether they're B2B or B2C, and whether they've explored those paths, being able to put quantitative metrics for that, but then also able to spit out these dynamic reports in lieu of investment memos, to not replace the diligence process, but just augment the amount of information being provided to the team in a fraction of the time and cost.
And so was that, if people wanted that diligence, was it one-off, or do you guys have a SaaS model?
It's a SaaS model, similar to how it's how some of the companies like Zapier are doing like a Zaps or 20,000 Zaps. So same way we did Tabs tokens. So different types of assessments, quote unquote assessments, could be created in terms of the user going on, the investor going on and creating like, hey, we want to learn about financial fundraising, product market fit. We want a data room, but we don't care about XYZ. So it created a custom token cost for that assessment. They could actually turn that into a button and then put that on their website or an email drip. And then using Zapier, set triggers to send that off at any point during their process. So it was a SaaS model, ranged anywhere from $500 a month all the way up to sometimes $75K a year or more.
What would you say? So $500 a month to what would that be? $6,000 a month. That's a big range. What would you say like the average customer is paying? Like $1,000 a month, something like that?
Yeah, I would probably say we had a lot of like $500 to $1,000, and then what they would do is go in, and then if they utilized all their tokens, they would just purchase a la carte or just automatically bumped up to another tier.
And when did you guys write the first line of code for Tab Score Suite? When did you launch?
We launched official. So first, I was doing the schema diagramming while I was on the last legs of the previous business, as it all works with serial entrepreneurs. But then the first kind of deployed launch was January 2020.
When did you start the schema though?
October 2019. So it took a couple months of, it was a very crude, we look back on it. Actually, we have a funny progression model of how the first one we had to buy. It's actually sitting, you can't see from there, but it's sitting over there. It's a computer that we just had to run the Excel macro that would provide the report, and it would take an hour, and we couldn't breathe near it because it would crash.
Oh, what's going on there, YouTube? Good to see you guys. Now imagine this. You love watching these interviews with SaaS founders, but imagine if we took all of the valuation data out from over 2,807 interviews I've done manually. Saves you a lot of time. Well, we've done this. We've built it into the beautiful interface inside of FounderPath. Check this out. I'll show you how you can access this in a second, but you log in, you connect your Stripe account, you see your valuation real time, you can see what it changed over the past 88 days, and even set goals for valuation this year. Now, the secret to valuation is there's many different ways to value a SaaS business. So the reason you're going to see 3 or 4 different valuations inside of your FounderPath dashboard, this is all free by the way, is because depending on who's doing the buying of your SaaS company, you're going to get a different valuation. A VC is going to pay a different valuation. Private equity firm is different. If you're going to do a minority sale, that's different. And if you sell the whole business, that's a different valuation. You can see all those when I hover over here. Right, so the teal is what a VC would pay, yellow is what private equity, and red is if you sold the whole thing outright. Now, what's cool about this is not built off random data. Again, you guys hear these interviews on YouTube. All these data are built from real-time valuation data points founders share with us on the show. So traction, 1.2 million, seed round, 3.7 raise, they sold 22% of their business. Go in here and filter by the event. Maybe you only want to see companies that have sold the whole business. Well, here are a bunch that have been acquired, the valuation and the multiple. Maybe you're going out right now and you're raising your seed round. Well, go in here and look at all this recent seed deals that went down, what they raised, what valuation they raised at, and what percent that they sold. There's never been a larger data set of SaaS valuations than what you can get now inside of FounderPath, and we're thrilled to bring it to you. All right, we're going to go back to the YouTube video here in a second, but if you want to check this tool out, if you want to jump in and sign up, you can check it out for free to get your valuation at this link, founderpath.com/products/valuations. Or if you go to founderpath.com and hover over products, click on get your valuation here, and go ahead and sign up to give it a whirl. Again, all that valuation data live right inside the platform. I hope to see you there. All right, let's jump back into the interview. Okay, so that you get going in 2019, and how long did it take you to get your first customer?
Our first customer was March of 2020. So it took right after, actually during COVID, one of the investors was like, I'm not able to conduct diligence. I know I turned down the tool earlier. Can I utilize it as a trial? And, we gave him one and it was super manual on the underside. And we were like, this is not sustainable. That's where we started to build out the ML tool. But he was, it was one of the first customers, was $1,000 processed as a check handed over a restaurant table.
That's amazing. All right. And so how many customers did you scale to before the acquisition?
So whenever even potential users or investors asked us that question, the way that we turned that around was we have some that, ran incubator accelerator programs for thousands of assessments. We had some that use it on a per deal basis. So in terms of users or customers, that wasn't the best metric to look at it by. I would say that we had over 1 million lines of iterated code written by the ML and AI system. That's how much the platform was used. Even today, the SBA company that uses it, or the SBA lender from the state of Colorado, we still have passively, after they've turned off all their funnels, are still dripping through 3 or 4 a day. That's just that one person.
Yeah, sorry, but I mean, look, I understand the metric you're giving me, but my audience is going to hear that and roll their eyes. So let me try and help you save a little face here. I get how you're trying to describe it, but let me ask a different question that might be easier to answer. How many folks spent at least $1 on the platform over the prior 12 months before the acquisition?
I'd say about 70.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, that's a much better metric. And you obviously have power users.
This is a very high touch SaaS product where it requires, multiple demos, and to a point where it's enterprise to a certain degree, even at the $500 level. So we introduced certain tiers of pricing that were always changing. Percentage of AUM. We experimented with a lot of different stuff.
Wait, give me some other example. Percentage of AUM. You ended up on the cookies. You ended up on the tokens basis, right? Credits. But what were the other things you test?
It's different when you get on the phone and the guy's like, all right, well, we have 500 million, we want to deploy it. And automatically it's like, all right, well, $500 a month doesn't really, cut it for you. So we tried percentage of AUM. We tried percentage of the amount you've funded into the deals, even though your fund hasn't closed yet. We tried SaaS pricing where it was just one fee. And then it was like blocks of, assessments. We tried a per assessment basis, and then we tried actually opening it up to founders. That didn't work well, so we went back to B2B, and then we went ultra high, like B2B to E, I would say, or B to E to B, enterprise to business.
Uh-huh. Super interesting. Okay, so you go from nothing to 70 customers over the past, call it 2.5, 3 years. If they're paying on average, call it $1,000 a month, right? It's fair to say you guys are flirting with $1 million run rate, or about $70,000 a month in revenue.
Right. Yeah, it wasn't recurring, but that's where we were, like heading towards rapidly, because we also had the growth and consulting side, which came up as an interesting piece, because a lot of times when the assessments were created and the assessment is pointing out, okay, the company needs firms or help here and here, we would be contacted by firms being like, hey, we have this package of like legal needs, for example, and then you've got this companies that are saying, okay, we need the following, like, let's match us together. So the consulting revenue became almost $30,000 to $50,000 per ticket from there. So
interesting.
Yeah.
So I guess if we look at like the last full year, then like 2021, what was the breakdown? You think 40% was consulting, 40% was like per assessment or SaaS or recurring based somehow?
Yeah, some of our large SaaS customers, like for example, we had 3 or 4 SaaS agreements signed at $30,000 to $50,000 mark each, and those were
per month or year,
per year. But those were deployed custom silos, and then each one of those, for example, like the SBA one, while we're on the topic, was saying, okay, now that we've deployed our silo, we want to bring on 14 others or 10 others or whatever the number was underneath at that same $30,000 a year. So the pipeline and run rate became astronomical, like just from them becoming, it was almost like a hub and spoke model.
Yeah. But I mean, did you do more than $1 million revenue and combined revenue last year?
No, we didn't.
Okay. So I guess the reason I'm asking you this is...
Yeah, sorry.
The exit what?
Our exit valuation accounted for us putting a pause essentially on going and closing that additional pipeline. So we actually sold based on the metric of, hey, there's minimal revenue here. Let's take this, give us the resources. We'll, build an enhanced tech suite, but then we'll still go and attack those. So now we're turning those funnels back on.
I see. Okay, that makes sense. And you say how many folks were on the team?
We had about 7 people. I say about because you always have, a couple contractors that are now closest family that were like basically full time. So it was about.
Who did all your engineering? You're a business founder.
I am a business founder. No technical experience. I shouldn't say no technical experience. All our engineering was done by the same team that worked with me on the last business and the one before that. We grew that. So those contractors are what I would call essentially part of the team, but not legally, like literally part of the team.
Were they part of like an outsourced dev shop that you worked with over and over, or are there individual folks you found on Fiverr, Upwork, TopTal, other places?
No. Yeah, it was a team overseas that we basically kind of have taken ownership of in terms of hiring processes and implemented almost like to make them our own. But legally,
but you don't let other founders or other people pay to put projects through that team.
We actually have started doing that just because the size and strength of that team is so great that it doesn't make sense to not, I'm always approached by founders saying, hey, like, can you help me with product or things like that? And interestingly enough, something that came of the Tabs whole like 2.5 year journey was that I turned into our head of product. So I learned Figma inside out. I learned, all the different tips and tricks. And then we worked it on a model where I would design and iterate. They would build overnight. I'd wake up and work on the suggestions while they worked on from the previous day. And it became like a really cool cycle.
Yep. No, that makes a ton of sense. And so are they sticking with the company now post acquisition?
They are. Part of the acquisition deal was that we usurped the tech talent or the top tier talent into the new firm.
Interesting. And how many outsourced developers are there?
7.
Six total. Okay, very cool. And which country are they? You said India?
Yep, they're based in India, between India and Singapore.
Very, very cool. All right, let's talk about the deal. There's a lot of companies building great businesses here, right? You look at PitchBook, you look at CB Insights. Obviously, Mattermark didn't work out for a variety of reasons. They probably raised too much. But like, how do you know you didn't? First off, were you bootstrapped? Yes or no? I think you were, right?
Yeah, we were bootstrapped. It was a little bit of a difficult answer because it was a gray area. We were essentially funded. I was the entrepreneur in residence for a fund. And then I essentially built the product under them using $500K from them, but it was still like bootstrapped to the point where I had to essentially, that came out of the basis point. So,
well, how much, what did you own more or less than 70% of equity in the business?
I did. I own more than it. Yeah.
Okay, got it. And then they owned whatever, 10, 15, 20%.
Correct.
Okay. Well, I guess so. Why would they let this go? Why wouldn't they try them? I mean, if it's really working well, it's proprietary. Why'd they let it? Why would they let it go?
So it's a good question. It's one that we've been asked, asked a lot. And again, let me just clarify on the last point. Like I, as part of that parent organization, like they owned 100%. My shares or my structure ownership in Tabs was through that. The reason that we
Well, wait,
let
what
it
does that mean?
go.
So we hear a model all the time where this sort of happens where you don't actually own 70, 80% of the business, but on an exit, you own 78 or 80% of the profits or the upside. Is that how it's
Correct.
structured?
Yep. So because I was an entrepreneur in residence, my contract is with that fund. But building it out, my time became more and more focused on this and less on their portfolio companies.
I see.
And I'm glad that you were able to clarify that. That's a good cohesive method to explain it.
Yeah, no, that makes good sense.
To answer your question about why did we let it go, we actually didn't. I don't consider it being let go. In effect, we realized 10 to 12 x on initial capitalization, but that is only on direct costs, not actually IP time and the actual time spent, from the founders, which that's an age-old battle between VCs and founders is, how do you quantify that? But in terms of the equity received as part of the cash plus stock compensation, the equity received is of us based on what we're building and our roadmap and everything, like we talked about, like pipelines that we had frozen that we're going to reactivate, the valuation and the percentage we own actually, and the deal terms make it worthwhile to the number that we had kind of hoped. And we look at this as the
Wait, no, let's put that like in once. That was a lot of like,
sure.
That's hard to follow. What did you guys sell for a 10 to 15x multiple on trailing 12 months revenue?
No, so what I was saying is like, because we spent like roughly 500 to, north of 500K on physical like payments to either vendors, subscriptions, those actual capitalized costs, the cash portion of the deal, was roughly like the 10 to 12% range. I mean, sorry, 10 to 12x range of that. But the remainder of the deal terms were taken as equity in pre-IPO in the surviving corp. And that percentage that we got of pre-IPO, based on what we know about the roadmap and where we're headed with that, it makes up for the difference in where we want it to be in terms of our vision for Tabs.
Well, even if it was just cash, though, I mean, and you did less than $1 million in revenue trailing 12 months, $1 million, right? Times even 6x would be great right now, right? It's a $6 million deal. But if you got a deal that's 10x the cash you put out, 500K, that's implying a $5 million cash component of the deal, which I would consider a fantastic deal by itself.
Yeah, I mean, you're a numbers guy, especially when with the whole founder path thing, and you look at those ratios. I mean, it was a great deal.
How'd you convince? That's crazy, actually. I mean, considering you're not even pure SaaS, how'd you convince someone to pay more than 5 million total deal price, but 5 million cash for a business doing less than $1 million in revenue?
So one of the key parts of the diligence was actually, it was a part of an acqui-hire, right? They really wanted us and the team as part of it. The other piece was they went and spoke to our SaaS enterprise customers. It's one thing to say, oh, this is our pipeline, but it's another thing to talk to them and those people to be like, yeah, tell us when to go and we're going to bring on, everyone else. So in a way, it was like, okay, we're going to use the actual value of the IP as well, based on their conversations with their large enterprise customers. I mean, the dollar amounts attached to what they were selling based on the usage of our tech was where we kind of came to that of, hey,
this price was public. This price was in the press, $20.8 million deal price, $20.8 million.
Well, that was, the initial price. The final price got, that was the MOU pricing, but then we adjusted slightly to reach like terms more favorable to both parties.
But was the total deal price lower than 20.8 or higher than 20.8?
Yeah, it was slightly lower than 20.8.
Yeah, fair enough. But 5 million of it was cash. The rest stock, equity, whatever, more upside earnouts, things like that. Right. Makes good sense. Interesting. Okay, well, we'll see what happens now. Was pre-IPO bootstrapped or have they raised a bunch of money?
So pre-IPO is not bootstrapped. It was for a little bit, but they're about halfway through an 8.75 million seed round, if I'm not mistaken. They're closing another 25 mil shortly after that, and then there's a credit facility on the line for, not closed yet, but there's a several $100 million credit facility to actually buy shares in the pre-IPO companies from second.
Yeah, and they're playing sort of in the crypto world too. So just to be clear, when you say there was a $5 million cash component of this wasn't like some exchange for ETH or some crazy inflated coin on Coinbase that you can't actually get liquidity. This was 5 million USD fiat wired to you, plus the fund that you were an EIRN, plus any other one that owned equity in the business.
There's still a cash component like earnout that is, during the purchase period or immediately following, but
I
it
see.
is in US dollar. It's not in some crypto coin.
I see. Okay, so the total deal value was called a little less than 20 million bucks, of which 5 million was cash. However, not all that cash was paid up front. Some portion is on
Correct.
whatever, a 2-year earnout.
Correct.
I see. Okay, very cool. Heck of a story here. I guess last thing I'll talk about, were you guys profitable before you exited?
Yeah, we were break even.
Okay, break even. Pretty good. Pretty good. Very cool. Well, hey, let's wrap up here with the famous 5. Number 1, favorite business book.
Business book, Hard Things About Hard Things. Ben Horowitz.
Number 2, is there a CEO you're following or studying?
There are quite a few. I couldn't name one right off the top of my head.
Okay. That's okay. Number 3, what's your favorite online tool for building a business?
It's got to be Figma.
And number 4, how many hours of sleep do you get every night?
I actually get 8 to 9. I cannot function without it.
And what's your situation? Married, single, kids?
Be married in March.
Oh, congrats. No kids yet?
No kids yet. They're on the way. Little UX designers are going to pop out.
How old are you?
I'm 28.
28. Last question. Something you wish you knew when you were 20.
I wish I knew that there were founders willing to help out us building companies as first-time founders.
Guys, there you have it. He learned by building his company as an EIR and out of fun. They gave him 500 grand cash and said, spin this out and build it. It was called Tab Suite. Call it machine learning and AI and due diligence using machine learning and AI. Grew it to something between 500K and $1 million of revenue, combined SaaS and consulting fees, and then sold just recently for $20 million deal value to pre-IPO, which 5 million of that was a cash component. Now he's building this inside of pre-IPO and hopes to continue to scale it rapidly with his team of 7. Thanks for taking us to the top.
Thanks.
One more thing before you go. We have a brand new show every Thursday at 1 p.m. Central. It's called Shark Tank for SaaS. We call it Deal or Bust. One founder comes on, 3 hungry buyers, they try and do a deal live, and the founder shares back-end dashboards, their expenses, their revenue, ARPU, CAC, LTV, you name it, they share it. And the buyers try and make a deal live. It is fun to watch every Thursday, 1 p.m. Central. Additionally, remember, these recorded founder interviews go live. We release them here on YouTube every day at 2 p.m. Central. To make sure you don't miss any of that, make sure you click the subscribe button below here on YouTube, the big red button, and then click the little bell notification to make sure you get notifications when we do go live. I wouldn't want you to miss breaking news in the SaaS world, whether it's an acquisition, a big fundraise, a big sale, a big profitability statement, or something else. I don't want you to miss it. Additionally, if you want to take this conversation deeper and further, we have by far the largest private Slack community for B2B SaaS founders. You want to get in there. We've probably talked about your tool if you're running a company or your firm if you're investing. You can go in there and quickly search and see what people are saying. Sign up for that at nathanlatka.com/Slack. In the meantime, I'm hanging out with you here on YouTube. I'll be in the comments for the next 30 minutes. Feel free to let me know what you thought about this episode. And if you enjoyed it, click the thumbs up. We get a lot of haters that are mad at how aggressive I am on these shows, but I do it so that we can all learn. We have to counter those people. We got to push them away. Click the thumbs up below to counter them and know that I appreciate your guys' support. All right, I'll be in the comments. See ya.